What's up, you guys? Welcome to my channel. My name is Yuri Choi. I'm a performance coach for CEOs, entrepreneurs, and high achievers. I'm also an author of my book, Creating Your Own Happiness, and 13 other co-author books. Today, I actually wanted to cover some ways, some mindsets, some tips that you can consider so that you can actually stay in flow by not taking things personally from other people. This is something that comes up often within my conversations with my clients and, how to actually not take things on personally so that you don't stay triggered or you can actually stay in your peaceful state of mind. You can stay calm throughout, your business engagements, business interactions, as well as you're in your personal life. One thing that I tell my clients is that everything that is happening within your personal life is actually affecting your business too. So whether this supports you in your personal life or in your business life, I'm really excited to see what comes through for you. So these are things that you can remember today so that you don't take things personally. And feel free to let me know if you guys are hopping on here right now or you're watching the replay. In what ways you can start to think about this? In what ways would it be beneficial for you to not take things personally? And you can either, comment below, comment in the chat, or just something that you can think about. Number one, hurt people hurt people. This is something I often come back to whenever I feel like someone's being overtly hurtful for no reason, or it feels out of line. And this is something that we get to remember, that hurt people hurt people. When people are hurt, they're operating from that place of hurt. And we often project or mirror like what's going on internally. So when we are in interactions with people who are already feeling hurt and they have a lot of unhealed parts of them, that can actually show up in unkind ways. Now, so this is something that you can think about. If you feel like someone's being intentionally hurtful, know that it has nothing to do with you most of the time. And something that you can just consider to know that you can just send them compassion for whatever they're hurting through and say, you know what, this is not me. I know who I am. This person's clearly hurting and I get to send them compassion, but also you don't have to take it personally because it's not your stuff. Number two, consider that they might have a different love language. So this is actually specifically true in interpersonal relationships, in romantic relationships, but also maybe even in your friendships. So someone might take the fact that you don't want to spend time with them in person more personally, whereas the other person's love language is actually words of affirmation. This is how they feel connected. So maybe for the other person, they actually feel connected to you. They feel loved and connected to you by, simply sending words of affirmations, whether it's texting or calling, and that feels connecting enough. Whereas the other person might feel like, wow, that person is not making any time, during the day or during the week to really spend quality time with me. And that feels hurtful. In those moments, we can reconsider the fact that we have different love languages. Now, if you're not familiar with love languages, I can create a completely different video on this. But basically, people typically have 5 different love languages. And this is, how people feel most connected and loved by their romantic partner, but in other situations too. So the love languages, they can include, physical touch, quality time, receiving gifts, act of service, and which one am I missing? Words of affirmation. So those are the 5 different love languages. And typically it's easier to, not feel personally hurt if you and the other person have the same love language or similar love languages. But if they differ, it could be that people can feel hurt in that dynamic because they think, them not saying certain things, if their love language is words of affirmation, that can feel hurtful or, and vice versa. So consider that people have different love languages. And again, I'll go into this in a different video. Number 3, consider that people might have a different frame of time. This, I think, is really important, especially nowadays where we kind of assume, and if you think about it, we're literally the first couple decades, first generation that has technology and ways for people to reach us at all times. Before, we used to have these phones, one phone in the house, and, you call them, we don't even know who's calling. We pick up, we may not pick up if we're not home. And then if for whatever reason, this is when I was younger, if I'm not allowed to be on the phone at a certain time, they might not even reach me. I mean, there's just so many barriers and reasons that you were not readily available via, a device like a cell phone. Now, we're so lucky that we have this technology available. Don't get me wrong. It serves so many benefits, but also I'm noticing that, there's this whole movement of people wanting to like take time away from their phones. And I think we're still navigating as a society, like, what is the norm here, or what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Now, that's all besides the point, because what we get to remember is that people have a different frame of time. So, for example, if you feel butthurt that somebody didn't text you back at a certain time, well, consider the fact that they might have a completely different frame of time. So, for example, back in the day when I used to work 9 to 5, um, and my boyfriend at the time, he was an entrepreneur and he was a creative. And so sometimes he would just have a completely different concept of time. For me, I was busy from like 9 to 5. Like most of the time, I could not even get to my phone during that time, besides like lunch breaks and, before, after work. And then for him, it was like just all over the place. Like he could, plan his day sometimes. Some days he had his phone on him. Some days he would go on long hikes and whatever. So we just had a completely different frame of time. So, if we were to assume that we should both have the same frame of time, it would have been, it would have caused conflict. Another thing that you can think about is, when people are like, think about it this way, when people say something like, oh, yeah, I've been thinking about doing something for a long time, instead of assuming what you think they mean by long time, it's good to clarify instead of taking it personally, and creating stories or reacting to it based on that. Um, you know, ask them for clarification. What is a long time for you? Or something like, yeah, I'll get back to you soon. I'll let you know, about this particular decision soon. Well, if you're not sure what soon means to them, let them or ask them, like, hey, could you maybe clarify by what time, just so I have an idea? Because, we're aware that we can have a completely different frame of time. So this is one thing that you can consider, to not take things personally, especially if if it has a factor of time or how fast people get back to you or how they should respond to you, if there's a lot of, expectations on that. Number 4, consider that people might have a completely different set of values or what's important to them in that season of life. So, for example, I might a couple years ago, my entire focus, like, maybe 7 years ago, my entire focus was like my business. Like that was my number one top priority because I had just quit my job at the time and I was really trying to like establish something that was never there. I had to overcome a lot of limiting beliefs and some of my clients probably can understand this for themselves, because a lot of them have, went from being an employee to starting their own businesses or overcame their own limiting beliefs to create the business or amplify their income or whatever. But, so at the time, my top priority was business. So when people try to talk to me about their relationships or their kids or different parties, like I just had less of an interest. So if somebody really valued different things at the time, it could be that they can take that personally. Oh, like she doesn't care about my, kid as much, or she doesn't care about my, party as much. Well, it may or may not be that, or that people have like different foci in different seasons of their life and business. And so understanding this, is really important because you can say, you don't have to take it personally, like, oh, that person doesn't care about me. Okay, that person cares about me, but clearly right now that person has different priorities. And that gets to be okay, right? And so that keeps you in flow, that keeps you calm, that keeps the, connection and the friendship or, the or relationship in flow and peaceful. And we don't have to take these things personally. Number 5, consider that they might have a different level of self-awareness or just different levels of understanding of themselves or how they come off or the impact they truly have on other people. Now, it's not a hierarchy. It's not meant to be like, oh, feel like you are better than someone else because you feel like you've worked on yourself more and you have a higher level of self-awareness. It's not that at all. But I will say this. I remember somebody once told me that, like, hey, they've done self-development work for a long time, like for many years. And some of the things I was saying, like I could tell that he could see at the time that I had a different level of self-awareness. This is before I went into self-development work. And at the time, I was a little bit like triggered, but looking back, I can like understand where that person was coming from because it wasn't supposed to be an insult, but he was trying to say like, hey, I'm seeing things. Actually, what he was saying is, I can have compassion for you. I can see it from your perspective. Um, and that gets to be okay. So just realize that people might just have a different level, I don't want to say level, different journey, place in their journey when it comes to self-discovery, self-awareness, and self-development. And instead of, I guess the thing that I'm trying to get out of the last few things I said is to not put any expectations on the other person. Consider that everyone has like a different reality and worldview, whether it's love language, whether it's a different frame of time or different set of values or what's most important to them right now, or different levels of self-awareness and self-discovery journey. Just be aware that everyone is literally in a different place in their life, different priorities in their life, different, importance in their life. So just realizing that and really dropping those expectations and what it should be like, that would really help us. That really helps us stay in flow, stay calm, and not take things personally. So I hope that's landing so far. Let's go into number 6. Number 6, assume the best intention of the other person. A few things about this. Well, first of all, you know that my whole thing is that we are powerful creators and powerful manifestors of our reality. If we assume the worst intention from the other person, we might as well manifest that energy and that negativity. We might actually be co-creating that energy by assuming the worst intention from the other person, because that itself doesn't seem very loving, right? On the flip side, also, assuming the best intention allows you to see them from a different perspective. So, for example, chances are if you are at a point where you can feel hurt or you're taking things personally, there's some part of you that's assuming that they have bad intentions for you. By trying on the idea that they actually might have best intentions, given their experiences, given their reality, given their time, given their, past whatever, even though it may not seem like it that way to you, if you can assume that they are actually offering the best that they've got in that moment, it could actually, allow us to really hold them in compassion rather than assuming that they have the worst intention. Number 7, remember this. People are way more focused on their own life, on their own business, on their own problems, on their own goals and their visions than we think. People are not typically out there trying to like understand what other people are thinking or, trying to, create some crazy ways to hurt those people. Yes, there are some outliers and there are some people who may do that, but I like to believe that that's a very small percentage, and those are typically people who literally have some mental conditions. Now, Most people are focused on their own life. They're not trying to go out there and hurt people. They might be unaware, excuse me, the impact that they're having on other people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are malintended. So remembering that, like, hey, they might just be not as focused on what I'm saying or what I think is important, probably mostly because they have something else going on in their life that has nothing to do with me that they're actually focusing on, or that their attention is actually being invited to even more for whatever reason. I feel very lucky that I'm kind of like that person who, even in social situations, like people just open up to me and people just share with me what's going on oftentimes. So it allows me to like really see them and doing the work I do. I mean, people have told me some of, my clients and whatnot have told me some of their deepest stuff. And you'd be surprised like what these people might look like from the outside and what they actually go through. It's not better or worse. It's just that we're all human. And not everybody is gonna broadcast everything that's going on in their life, and that's totally okay, right? Everyone gets to have their own, sharing or energetic boundaries. But I think it's important to remember that people are focused on their own problems in life and business more than we think. So instead of jumping to the conclusion that they're trying to hurt you or they're trying to take things personally, we can let that go and detach. Number 8, um, how to not take things personally. Remember that it's not your job or role to change them or stay upset. Your only job is to commit to creating an environment that supports your best self to emerge. So, what does this mean? I think the problem with people taking things personally is oftentimes we end up staying in this negative state for longer than we'd like. And then it starts to affect other parts of our life, other parts of our business, and so on. That's typically why people don't want to take things personally, because it takes them out of flow, it triggers them, it takes them out of their peaceful state or calmness, and then it starts to impact their profit, impact their business, impact their impact or whatever. So, um, I guess what I'm trying to say is to be able to see, like if you start to notice that you feel like you're, finding that someone is trying to hurt you and you find yourself trying to take that personally, just do what you got to do. Create energetic boundaries, create boundaries, personal boundaries, physical boundaries, business boundaries, emotional boundaries, whatever you get to do to truly create an environment that supports you. Now, I mean, I will have a completely different video on boundaries because I think this is so important. And the more and more I, really do the research and talk to my clients, my high achieving clients, the number one thing that shows up over and over again, or one of the top, I should say, is a lot of burnout is related to people pleasing and lack of boundaries. So this is so important. So anyways, like creating these boundaries gets to be okay. So not to not take things personally from other people and stay in that negative state, um, truly invite people into your closer circle or your heart with people who seem to have similar values, or to have similar, just like alignment in the values. And that may actually support you to show up as your best self. And when we show up as our best selves and we continue to work on ourselves, which is why it's so important that we do this inner work, and this is what I love doing with my clients, is that it allows us to do what's best for us and allows us to stay in flow more and stay happier. And guess what? When we're genuinely happy, we're actually just less likely to take things more personally or get upset. So, do what you got to do to support an environment where your best self has the best chance to show up, basically. And number 9, remember this, and this is kind of related to the first thing we talked about, which is, hurt people hurt people. But number 9 is, people with insecurities will project their insecurities on you. People with fears will project their fears on you. So I'm going to actually have a follow-up video on this as well. A lot of follow-up videos. So please subscribe if you haven't done so already, because there's some good stuff coming up, which is, I think it's important to, if we really not want to take things personally, know that people projecting their fears on you, people projecting their insecurities on you, is actually their energy. So you get to know what your energy is, and then you get to know what their energy is, and just take what's yours and commit to making your energy beautiful and staying committed to that. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. It's like our energetic signature. It's like our energetic container. It's the energy of, like, cloud of energy we get to carry everywhere we go. And if we can really commit to creating that aura and committing to that aura, it actually becomes much easier for us to distinguish what's their fears, what's their bad energy, what's their, insecurities versus ours. Versus, us thinking we have to take on what's theirs. And then when we can actually have that stableness, that groundedness in who we are, and again, this comes from doing the work, doing the inner work, and really becoming self-aware, becoming clear about who we are, this becomes easier. So I'll have a follow-up on that, how to distinguish what energy is yours and what energy isn't yours. Number 10, every day, do something to cleanse your energetic body, and keep your intentions pure and loving as much as possible. So what I mean by that, this is related to what we just talked about, number 9, is that if we know that our energies, our intentions are pure and loving, there's going to be less space for us to take things personally, because it becomes abundantly clear what's not yours. You're like, well, I'm overflowing with love, and this person is saying hurtful things. I don't have to take that personally, because I know what I'm full and overflowing with. And then, cleansing your energy. So one simple practice, and I actually do have a video on this already. I can go ahead and link it below. One thing that you can do to keep your own energetic field clear is a simple practice. There's many more, but this is one of the most simple ones, I believe, because most of us take showers every day or on a regular basis. Although I'm finding that sometimes people don't, and that's kind of weird. No judgment. I just couldn't fathom, because my hair gets quite oily fast. Anyways, besides the point, I shower every day. Whenever I shower, I I pretend that I'm not only showering my physical body, but I'm actually showering my energetic body. I pretend that any energetic cords that are attached to me, I'm cutting them, I'm washing them away, and I, like, literally visualize these energies that's not mine getting, going into the drain and actually leaving my body. And this is one way that we can keep our energetic field clear and pure, along with really setting that intention every day to keep our energy clear. Because again, this allows us to stay genuinely loving, genuinely happier, which will help us feel at more flow and not take things personally as much, because we're already a full, happy human being. Our cup is overflowing, but also it becomes easier for us to detect what energy is not ours and what energy is ours, so we don't take things as personally. So those were the 10 points. I'm curious what landed for you. Was that helpful for you? I would love your feedback. It's so good to be back on YouTube, and I'm really excited to create more videos for you guys. Recently, so I have a coach as well, and we have been discussing this concept, which I think is so powerful, and something that I help my clients with as well, but also something that I want to practice here, which is the law of giving. And I have so many stories on this. I'll make a separate video. I have like so many separate videos I'm going to create. But I basically what I'm saying is I'm going to give so much in the next few weeks, or maybe even months, or maybe years. We'll see. I'm just really showing up to give everything away. I'm going to be giving so much value in these videos. So if you haven't done so already, do subscribe. I think some amazing content is coming your way, and it would be so lovely to stay connected with you all. So anyway, sending you so much love. I hope you guys can feel the love. Feel free to comment below what landed for you. Any comments, any feedback that you'd like to offer, they're always welcome. Other than that, have a beautiful day, have a beautiful evening wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you later.